So I'm back, and today we're going to do another rant of the week. And this time, although I've talked about this briefly with several other rants, I'm kind of running low on things to rant about. This time I'm going to rant about, or I'm going to talk about third-party combiners. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, third-party combiners have been doing pretty well. But there is a number of things that really do bug me about them, and that's primarily what I wanted to talk about to you. Bleh. So the first thing I want to bitch about is complexity. Now, you guys know me, and you know my hatred of overcomplicated figures and my hatred of oversimplified figures. Now, when it comes to a combiner, though, I think simple is a little bit better than complicated. The cars for Fans Project Minosaur were okay. A little bit fidgety and bending plastic, stuff like that. But the Diesel was just horrendous. Transforming him was just a nightmare. Here's a great example of simple. He's a very simple transformer altogether. All the Combiner Wars figures are all very simple to get them together. And, that's nice. Because we're not talking about one big figure. We're talking about multiple figures that combine into one big figure. So I think they need to be a little bit more simple than what some of the third parties are trying to make them. When there's too much going on, then it's just not, it stops being fun. If you got a figure like, say, Galvatron, it takes you, let's say 5 minutes to transform, that's not too bad. Maybe 10 minutes. Depending on the figure, and then you get figures like him, who take about 10 minutes or so to transform. That's fine for this particular figure. But when you get a figure that takes 10 plus minutes to transform, that's part of a team of, say, 6, like Devastator. He's not quite, I wouldn't say 10 minutes per figure, but let's say if they were, then you're going to spend an hour transforming this thing. With a Combiner War figure, or like him, we're talking like 15-20 minutes to do the whole thing. Even Feral Rex, I sold my Rex because I didn't like certain aspects of him, and I think he does a better job, in my opinion. In my biased opinion, anyway. Even Hay wasn't that bad to transform. He had a couple fidgety parts, but nothing was like, oh my god, I don't want to transform this. That's why I'm not doing the Minosaur in Combiner Week like I was originally planning on. I ended up trading him away to get the TFC Superion, so we will be looking at him. See, now there's a great example of combiners done right, although I don't really like the end result, but the complexity of them, I was always hesitant to bite the bullet on the whole set because of the Silverbolt figure, and I was like, man, that thing looks way too complicated, but getting it in hand, he's not that bad, and the individual jets aren't that bad. So that'll probably take me about 30 minutes to get them all together. And I'm okay with that. But Diesel takes about 30 minutes to transform on his own, to get all the parts right and flipped around just right. It's a complete, total nightmare. And when you have to look at the instructions to find out where to push certain pieces past the point where you think that they're gonna break, it's not good. It's not fun. And that's the primary purpose of my collection, is for fun, not just for show, not saying, oh, you know, if it was just for show or just for me being able to say, oh yeah, I've got the most expensive figure on the shelf, I would still have Rex, not Warlord. You know, I would be all in the Masterpiece Dinobots, not these like Toy World ones and stuff. Although some of the Fans Project ones are a nightmare too. You know, stuff like that. It's like, okay, I want to have fun with my collection. You know, yeah, there's a little bit of a scale thing that I'm trying to go with, but I want to have fun with it. And that's why I will not be looking at Computron this month either. I traded him away. I know I promised Computron, but he just wasn't fun for me at all. I absolutely did not like that figure. The little car is very difficult to transform. Very much a pain in the ass. The core bot is right about where his complexity should be. And overall, his robot mode is worth it for the complexity because he does look amazing. The two arm bots, the little jet was awesome. Absolutely incredible. That's where I want my combiners to be in that level. The little bike, again, he was fidgety. He wasn't very complicated, but he was fidgety and hard to get to look well or look good in any position because he was so fidgety. But then there's Nose Cone, and Nose Cone absolutely kills it for me. I absolutely cannot stand that figure. I don't want anything to do with it. Way too complicated for a figure that size, and I just did not have fun with it. You know, I was working on trying to master the transformations, but with him, I could never not look at the instructions to figure out how to like swivel his arm or something. It was insane. He's that bad. He killed all enjoyment of that entire set. Is how bad that figure was. First time I put the Computron together, I went from robot mode using the instruction to combine mode, and it took me 3 hours. 3 hours. That's not fun for me. I don't have 3 hours to spend transforming one set. That's just ridiculous. I cannot stand stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it was my first time through, and maybe I would have gotten faster, but honestly, would you guys really want to watch me do a 3-hour review of me just putting Computron together? I wouldn't think so. So, I do apologize that I'm not going to do him, but there are other reviewers out there that did him. Perhaps one day I'll have the guts to try it again, but so I've got TFC Superion coming next week, and then I've got a Bruticus War coming the week after, because I've got the Fans Project Bruticus that we're going to look at. And yes, I know we've looked at it a number of times, but this is actually the first edition set with the Revenge of the Fallen set, so it's a slightly different set that actually works a little bit better all around. So we'll look at him, and it will be very brief. We'll probably just do one episode of that. Then I have the retail version of the Fall of Cybertron Bruticus that we'll look at, and then we also have the Microblaze set. I also got the Boosticus set back in too, so we'll actually be doing a comparison video of all three Bruticus to see which one's the better Bruticus. Now, when we do that, I will have to switch back to my old camera because I still haven't figured out a software to edit this camera. Right now, I just do everything in one shot and just post it. It seems to be working fine. I usually only do one shot anyway with my videos. Anyway, so let's go on to the actual rant. More of the rant. And this goes to all the third-party guys. Because I think that they're really missing some really good opportunities with their figures. A great example of this would be when Giant first came out, the first edition of Giant was actually the yellow version, and then green version came out. And I think they should, I definitely think they should reissue Yellow Giant, because I'd buy that in a heartbeat. And I'm not a huge fan of Shattered Glass, but TFC did do the Shattered Glass Devastator as well, when they released their first one, because they did Green Hercules and then I think they call it Perseus, and that's awesome, but I think after that, I mean, nobody's repainting any of these combiners or retooling any of them, and it's just stupid. I mean, honestly, that's just stupid not to do that. There's so much potential with these molds, and they're one of the primary reasons why Hasbro reissue or re-releases the same mold over and over and over again in different colorations and maybe slightly tweak the mold is to recoup the cost of the molds. And if these third-party companies with these combiners start doing that, then I would assume that the cost will go down for us. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, if you already have the mold, use it. Use it till you can't use it anymore, honestly. I know some people might disagree with me on that, but because, some people don't like to see repaints of the same thing over and over again. But at the end of the day, that's what Transformers is. Everything is a repaint of something. Pretty much everything has been repainted from something. And if you say, well, there's some characters in G1 that weren't repaints from somebody else, no, all the first season 1 and 2 figures were all repainted from different toy lines and crammed together into one toy line. So everything was repainted in the first 2 seasons, and then almost everything since then has been repurposed at one point or another to be a different character. Anyway, so let's run down the line. Green Giant could, they should reissue Yellow Giant. Then they make toys should also do the Shattered Glass Devastator. That's something I wouldn't buy, but I know that there's a fan base for it out there, and I'm sure some people would enjoy it. Maybe release it in smaller numbers. Don't do site exclusive, because that's stupid. I don't like that at all. Release it to the actual toy stores if you can. Maybe make it exclusive to like Big Bad Toy Store or something. That'd be cool. Get it out to the general or the semi-general population. So they should do that. And then they Make Toys also did Computron. They teased us with one figure being repainted as a Shattered Glass version to look like one of the Abominus guys. So it would have been nice to see the whole set, not just one figure that's now insanely expensive. I think that would be cool. And that's the Shattered Glass version. They could also, he wasn't in the G2, but I'm sure they could come up with some weird, obscene color scheme for G2 to work out. So that's one thing I would like from Make Toys. Fans Project already teased us with one car breakdown as the G2 breakdown. And I think they should have done the whole set. I really do. There's a lot of fan base for the G2 sets. I am one of those people. I absolutely do love G2. And if they release that set, despite the fact I don't like Diesel that much, or at all, I would definitely buy that. I would buy that. Hasbro's going to do it. If they've got the Stunticons, they're going to be G2 Stunticons soon. They're gonna beat those horses till they're dead, and that's why they are able to make these toys at a lower cost. Yeah, they can distribute them further, but at the same time, because they're repainting that, they're recouping the cost of those molds. because the molds aren't cheap. Molds are not cheap. They're very expensive. In case some of you guys might not know this, but I know like when I was doing the Warhammer, the molds, the steel molds for the plastic figures, they range into tens of thousands of dollars for the little plastic models. So I can't imagine what a full mold for a transformer, let alone a combiner, would cost. And these third-party companies, they're making these molds, but then they just set them aside and they don't do anything with them. So I think they should do smaller releases, but do different versions of them. Do the main version as a bigger release, but do smaller versions of the different repaints so that people can have the chance to get the one that they want, and then if they like that one, then they can get the repaint. So there's that. Let's see. Microblaze. I mean, seriously, why haven't you guys done the platinum edition of him? Yeah, he came. The set comes with the little pieces that make it look more platinum, but it's still not a platinum edition, because to replace this guy, with this guy is all right, but to replace the platinum edition one, which is brown and green, with this guy, doesn't look right. It doesn't fit. So I think they should recolor him and release him in this color. They should also obviously do one for G2, and maybe make one with all the shiny parts for the Takara version, and obviously do a retool of him as Impactor. They don't have to do a major retool. Just a different head would probably work well enough for most people, because that's what Impactor was to begin with. I mean, toy-wise. It was just a slight retool of Onslaught. So, come on. Let's get this ball rolling. Boosticus, set... they came out with Black, G2, Takara, Retail, and Platinum Edition. So, they came out with 5 different versions right off the bat. I think the Black came out first. So it's like, they know how to cater to the fans. Make smaller waves of each color rather than make a huge wave of one color that nobody... honestly, it's the retail version. Who's going to be buying this set? It's going to be collectors, and not just standard collectors, but the hardcore collectors that go into the third-party market to get an upgrade kit for an official figure. These collectors, for the most part, a lot of you guys out there that are watching this video are collectors. So look at your Fall of Cybertron Bruticus, and which ones do you have? I'm betting it's either Takara, Platinum, or G2. I doubt it's going to be the retail. Some people have the retail, some people don't. But for the most part, the collectors are buying the collector's editions, not the retail version, because nobody could make sense where the colors for the retail version came from. Anyway, moving on. I can't. I've already scrapped a rant of the week on this topic twice now, because I keep rambling on too much on one topic. So we got to keep moving. Feral Rex could get reissued. I think Feral Rex should just be reissued, quite frankly. But it would be cool to see, maybe like one with gold chrome instead of the just gold paint. That champagne gold color that they had for the first wave. Something like that. Maybe do second set with like better swords instead of the knives, and just give them a big sword like Warlord had. Stuff like that. They could do that. Now TFC, let's talk about TFC for a minute, because they have so much potential with their molds, and they just are not doing anything with it. Their Devastator, they got the Devastator green version and the Shattered Glass version. Well, let's do the yellow version, because everybody likes yellow Devastator. Maybe not everybody, but enough people would like it to buy it. I would buy it in a heartbeat. They also have the Superion. Okay, well let's try a oh, 1 second here. Let me grab it. All right, so you got this mold here. This is the F15. This is a Seeker mold. This is the same Seeker jet as the Seekers. So retool this and give us some Seekers, because I would buy the shit out of that, because this guy is actually really, really cool in jet mode and in robot mode. He just would need like a fake windshield right here, and everything else would work perfectly. So not only that, but you could also you could keep the combiner gimmick with it, and we can make a giant Seeker combiner. Do 4 different versions of this retooled into Thundercracker, Skywarp, Starscream, and Sunstorm. And then you could do the big jet as maybe Jetfire, like an evil Jetfire or something like that. Or maybe even just build a whole new core body, because they're all mixed matches. You could do a Seeker combiner. Now, also, G2 version. Again, come on. They have their fan base, especially since one of their molds actually fell apart. The original G2, I think it is Slingshot, because he was made out of entirely gold plastic, which is it's almost impossible to find one. And if you do, and he's in package, you got to leave him in package, because if you take him out, he's done. You'll never have a combined G2 Superion. So there's a market for it. It's such a good mold. I like this mold. I really think they should do that. Anyway, moving on. You could also repaint the other jets as Seekers too. Yeah, it's not the same Seeker mold, but it would be kind of refreshing to have a Skywarp that wasn't exactly the same as Acid Storm, as Acid Storm or something like that. Yeah, things like that, are things I think of when I see the Seekers, or when I see these combiners. They just did Defensor. I don't think there's ever officially Defensor in G2, but I'm sure you can figure out something to repaint them into. You got the cop car you can repaint into Prowl. You can do stuff like that. That one might be a little bit more difficult to pull off, but I'm sure you could figure something out if you really try. And then let's talk about their Predicate. And I've said this in the Predicate reviews, that it felt more like a Beast Wars style. So why not paint it as Beast Wars figures? It would be really awesome to see Razorclaw as the Leo Prime. Obviously the mold wouldn't quite add up very well, but it would still work well enough. The Rhino obviously could be Rhinox. I don't know what to do with the Bull. Rampage obviously could be Cheetor. I would love to see, because somebody did a Digibash of some of these guys as Beast Wars characters, and it just looks so great together. I mean, even if you're not even going to combine them, they'd be great. And then what I think would be really cool is for Dive Bomb, you could repaint him as Beast Machine's Silverbolt, because the Silverbolt we got for Beast Machine was absolutely trash, and that guy actually looks a lot like him, even with swords, feather swords and stuff like that. I think that would be amazing. So anyway, I guess that's really it of the things I'm thinking about. But I just think, if they start reissuing these molds in different colors, I think that they would really sell well. And I think they're missing out on a really, really great market. So, anyway, I guess that's it. what are your guys' thoughts on this? Am I way off base, or do you think they should do that too? And if so, if you do think that they should do it, comment below on what you think would be the coolest repaint of any of the third-party combiners. You know, do you want to see a Hercules in yellow colors, or do you want to see a Beast Wars set out of the TFC Predacons, or do you like my idea of them retooling the this into Seekers? Because we do need bigger Seekers that aren't as big as the iGear Seekers. Those are a little too big to work perfectly, but this would work amazingly well in robot mode. So there you go. There's my thoughts.